Hi Sridhar, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Okay, can we start?
Yes,
Okay. Your voice is coming low.
yeah, it is okay now.
Yeah, it is okay now. Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, so I will firstly tell you how we are gonna conduct the interview. So startingly, we can start from the JavaScript questions. Then we have some coding round, and after that, we will go through ReactJs questions. Okay.
Okay, okay.
So let's start with your quick introduction. How many years of experience do you have in React?
In React 2.5 plus
Oh, and total?
3.5 plus.
Okay. Okay, then let's start with the JavaScript questions,
Okay,
okay?
okay.
So, can you tell me what is the hosting in JavaScript?
Okay, hosting is like a phenomenon in JavaScript which allows us to access the variables and functions before initialization. Like for an example, when we write a when we are declaring a variable a, before variable a, we are not assigning any value. Like we are not initializing any value. The variable will be stored in the global scope of the window, and it will automatically it gives us it takes the memory of undefined, so that we can access variable before initializing. We can access the variable. It does not give us like it doesn't give any error. It gives us the undefined as its value, which is hosted.
Okay, okay. What is the closure in JavaScript?
Closures in JavaScript is like a variable declare like a variables declared outside the function or the outer scope of the function. Outer scope of
Your voice is breaking,
Okay, is it okay?
Sridhar.
Hello.
Your voice is breaking.
Yeah, is it
Yeah,
okay now?
is it okay? Yeah,
Like okay,
yeah, it is.
okay, like variable closures are like a variable declares outside the functions or the outer scope. It has automatic access to the inner functions. Like we don't need to pass the variables from outer to inner function. It has automatic access from the outer function. Like for an example, there is a function called outer, and there is another function inner. It has an inner function. In outer it has an inner function. And then if you are declaring a variable name with hello in the outer function, we like in inner function we can it has automatic access to the inner function. We don't need to access the again declare a new variable with name. It has automatic access to the name variable of the outer
Okay,
scope.
okay, okay. Um, so do we have idea about shallow copy and deep copy?
Yes, I do.
Hello?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Okay, so can you explain me what is the shallow copy and what is the deep copy?
Okay, okay. Like a deep copy is like a it like a like there is an for an example, there is an object one. It has a key pair values. Like for an example, a is equals to a, or a is equals to 1 and b is equals to 2. And we are assigning the same object one to creating an object 2 and assigning the object 1 to object 2. Like if you are changing the like if you want to change the object 2's property of a to, if it has the value of a1 and 2. If you want to change the object 2's value property of a to 10, then if we when we change, they are referring to the same memory. So when we change the object 2's property a, the like it changes the in the object 2 as well as to the reference object, like original object. It changes the like both the objects. That is deep copy. Shallow copy is like through spread operator we can make a shallow copy, where spread operator makes us to create a separate memory. Like it won't refers to the same memory or like parent object. It creates a separate memory, so that if it won't modify the original object. It only changes particular changes.
Shri, you are mixing two concept.
Sorry.
You are explaining deep copy's explanation to the shallow copy. By
Okay.
shallow copy, we are not able to produce the separate memory, right? By deep copy, we can do that,
Uh,
right?
Yeah, shallow copy
Okay.
is like it creates a separate like the for same example like object one and object two. If you are assigning an object one to object two, when if we want to change the object, if you are changing the object two's property, it will only change object two's property itself. It won't change the parent object. It only refers to the it only changes object two's object. It won't changes
Okay.
object one.
Okay, I can give you one example. Like if you have an object, right, and inside that object we have you have three keys, right?
Okay.
Okay. So the first key is nothing but the string, but
Okay.
another two keys are nothing but the another object type.
Okay.
Okay. So they are nested object.
Okay.
Okay. So will shallow copy create separate memory for each object inside that nested loop?
Shallow copy separate memory for the nested loop. No, nested loop. It won't create separate copy for the nested loop.
So then it will origin to the original memory, right? So
Yes.
we are creating copy of the from the origin one, right?
Yes.
But if we change that the second object, then it
Yes.
will reflect original object, right? So
Yes.
in that case we like, how can you create the new memory? Like I want to change that nested loop, but I don't want to affect that original object.
Like
So in that case, how can
through
you do
spread
that?
operator we can do it.
Okay.
Dot we can refer the object one and we are assigning to object two so that it creates the shallow copy of the original copy.
Okay. Do you know any methods to create deep copy?
Any methods? Like methods like inbuilt methods or just like
No, inbuilt method. You can say inbuilt methods.
object dot assign
Okay.
and
Another one.
another one is like I don't have idea. Just
Okay. Okay. No worries. Okay. Can you explain me what is the prototype inheritance?
prototype inheritance. Prototype inheritance in JavaScript is like for an example, when there is an object, it has one object has like access to access the properties and methods of another object. If of another object, if you are adding a through prototype, if you want to add any method or property to the particular object, so that it creates the instance for every object. Like if you are creating we don't need to write the same method for the each and every object. Through prototype, it creates the instance for every object. We can reuse the code. So this is
Okay. Um, okay. What is call, apply, and bind method in JavaScript?
call, apply, and bind.
Yes.
In call, a function like a function belonging to one object can be like a called and assigned from the another object. Like for an example, when we write a method and we inherit into the another object, like without rewriting the same code for the another object, like for a like for an another object, so that we can create instead of creating the different for another object we are creating the same method. Instead of that, we can inherit the method into that, like a same, you can use different object with the same method. So like that. So where a dot call takes the like two parameters. First is the reference object, which it is referring to, and the second is the in the comma separated values. And dot apply is also similar to dot apply is also similar to call, but it also refers to the reference object first parameter, and the second is it takes an array of values. In the scenarios we can use the apply is if you are fetching the if you are performing any API call and fetching the data from the API, that we don't know that how much data is fetching, or like what is the length of the data and how to pass. So in such case we can use dot apply to pass the in array format. And bind method is like it creates the exact copy of the function, but it won't invoke immediately. We can invoke it later when we require that method. So that is the main thing.
So in React, you are using bind method or you are using ES6 feature for it?
ES6 feature.
Okay. Sridhar, I have posted the one example in the chat. Can you open your chat?
Yes. Yes, I have opened it.
So, okay. So, are you able to see the for loop for there?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So can you tell me the what is the input for I?
It will be 5 console, like every time it will be printing 5 5 5.
Okay. And if I want that loop, like I should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then how can I achieve that?
Like we can use, instead of bar we can use let, so that it creates the separate block, which creates a separate block for every loop. To that different, it refers to that separated block. So where let is a block scope, so that is a, so using let we can achieve it.
Okay. And are you able to see that next function, hello world?
Yes.
Okay. So can you tell me the output for it?
No one. It's 1, 2 and 3 is the output.
Why it is like that?
Like Java is synchronous, so first it executes first, like a console one, and then set timeout it performs the asynchronous task in JavaScript, which performs asynchronous task. So even if we give set timeout 0 of 0, it the JavaScript consider as it is a, like it is a callback function. We can it is a it is an asynchronous task, so it wait for the execution, and then it won't wait. Again it goes to console 2, and then after it moves to set timeout function.
Yeah. Okay. Can you explain me the JavaScript event loop, how it works for the asynchronous call?
Event loop.
Yeah.
Okay, event loop is like in JavaScript, in all the, synchronous task will, it is performing asynchronous task. So if there is any callback functions in browser APIs, there is a like a methods, like a event handling, in such case set amount method in the browser. So like it wait for all the execution of asynchronous task is completed, it checks that task call stack, and it checks that call stack, and then after the asynchronous task, all the synchronous task is completed, and then it checks the call stack that at any, like there is any asynchronous task is pending or not. If all the synchronous tasks are done, then it moves to the, it performs the set timeout method, like asynchronous calls.
Okay. Okay. So let's move ahead with the React questions. Okay.
Okay, okay.
So can you explain me how does React work and virtual DOM concept in React?
Virtual DOM in React is it's like a virtual DOM. React creates the exact copy of the, real DOM. Exact copy of the real DOM. If there is any, like if we want to change, if we change any component in the, in the application, the way the virtual DOM compares with the real DOM and the virtual DOM, and it only executes that particular component, instead of all the components. If instead of re-rendering all the components, it gives us the performance optimization. This calculation is done through a diff algorithm, diff algorithm is like it checks the, like it is a, like a tree flow. It checks the component and component. It only renders, updates that particular, only that component. It won't render all the component, it only renders particular component. It gives us the application optimization, better optimization.
Okay. What is controlled and uncontrolled components in React?
Controlled and uncontrollable. Controlled components are like controlled by React, through, it don't have like direct reference. Through event handling, we can achieve it. Through on change event, we can fetch the input values. Like for an example, if you are fetching through on change, like if you want to fetch any input value, like there is an input field. If you want to type hello, so the, like hello is like HELLO, so it has 5 letters. So every time if you type H, it will the component will render 5 times. The component will be re-rendering 5 times. Even HELLO times, so then that the component will be rendering 5 times. So that is the, like, controlled components. Like, yeah, uncontrollable components are it has direct reference to the input values, which can be achieved using refs. Through refs, we can fetch the direct access to the input values, and then which are immutable, we can the when we type the like input method, it won't re-renders every time. So that is a main difference.
Okay. So, are you using class component in your project or functional component?
Now we are using functional component. Earlier we used to use like a class component, class based components.
Okay. So, how can you decide like when to use class component and when to use functional components, right? So, because whatever we achieve in the functional component, that already can we achieve that by class component, right?
Yes.
So, which specific things you think when to like by using components?
Earlier, before introduced in functional component hooks were introduced, functional components were used for the like has the presentation component, like it is only used for presentation. Right now, in the main scenarios to use to consider is in like
Your voice is breaking, Sridhar.
hello.
Yeah,
Yes, it is okay now.
yeah, it is okay. Yeah.
Yeah, like functional components are like mostly used for like I need to perform earlier to use the presentation, because it doesn't it was earlier it was not having any like to update the state, so it was used for the presentation. And now it is if we want to consider based on the code is in these scenarios.
Is there any performance advantages when we are using a functional component over class component? Because whatever we can achieve by class component, that can be achieved by functional. So how can we decide now whether it is class or function?
Yes,
So is there any chance of functional performance? Oh, sorry, performance.
yes, there is. In class, we'll be using the class component, will be extending it to React. Through extend, we will be extending it to React. In functional component, we can, it is a pure function. We can, like, it is a pure JavaScript function. We can write like it is like a function, and it returns a React element. In class component, we'll be using like a constructor to, and we'll be using like a bind to like a referring to the particular object, and then we'll use render method for the UI. In class, it is in class component. In functional components, it is a pure JavaScript function, so it is easy to understand to like for the developers to write. It is like a normal function, JavaScript function. It returns the Java UI, and hooks we can access use using in the same, we can give the initial value and the set value is equals to use state in the giving the initial value. In class component, we will be using this dot state is equals to, will be giving the like a value properties, and then we'll be using this dot set state to update the state. So that is the main difference, I think.
Okay. Can you explain me the hooks in the React 16, like which hooks you are used and what is the use of those hooks?
Use Mostly I used use state and use effect.
Okay.
Use state is like used to update the state in the functional component. Like for an example, there is a const will be assigning it, like there is a const declaring a const and giving a set like value and set value, within will be giving the initial value and the set value. Set value is like for we are giving it for to update the state. If whenever there is any, if you want to set value, it will update the value. So if you want to give a use state, initial value is equals to 1. When we perform any action, like if we click on any button, we want to update the state of that value. So on click function, we will be updating the set state value. So it will update the state of that value. So in such case, the component will be re-rendered. And so in such case, we'll be using the use state hook. And the use effect is as soon as the return method executes, the use effect method will be executed. In use effect, it has it can we can perform we can achieve the we are achieving the life cycle methods in class component. The similar way we can achieve using use effect. In functional component, we can use effect in the same ways. If you use effect has two arguments. Like first is two parameters. Like first is the callback function, and the second is the like a dependency empty array. If we don't give the array dependency, like empty array dependency, the component will be rendering every time, like in the mounting phase and updating phase. Like if we give the empty array dependency, it only execute once after the return statement execute, it will only execute once. And if you want to perform any changes, if there is any state change, and if you want to update the component, like rerender the component, in such case we can give the state value to the a dependency array, so that whenever there is an if the state is changed, then that component will be that use effect will execute and the component will be re-rendered, like the class function will be re-rendered. And then like if you want to unmount any, like if you want to unmount any element, like if you are deleting any element, in such case we can use in the use effect we can use a callback function. In return we can use in return we can pass the method to execute the unmount method.
Okay. Have you used use reducer, use memo, use context?
Use context, I have an idea about it, but I haven't worked on it because we're using to state management we used redux. So
Okay. So you said Redux. So
yes,
why do we need state management like Redux, and how Redux works?
state management in redux is like it allows us to manage the state of the application. As you said like earlier, use context, use context, if we use context, if we want to pass the data from one component to another component, we'll be using like a provider and the consumer, whichever the consumer data, if we want to pass the data from one component to another, through provider will be passing the data, and through consumer we will be consuming the data in the required component. So where the complexity comes here is like if there is a name, username, and the user subscription. If you want to pass the username, and then after user login, and need to check the user subscription, if it has like a subscription or any another, is that user has subscribed or not. In such case, we'll be using first a provider, we'll be passing the name as a prop, and then again we'll be nested, we'll be again keeping the provider, and we'll be passing the subscription state, and then we'll be wrapping the two providers will be wrapped into the consumer, for which develop element for the which component we need to pass. So it is a very complex, it is very complex to perform. So in such case redux can be used. Redux is like it allows us to manage the state of the application, and in reducer we'll be giving the initial state of the component, so that through map state to props we can access the states in all the required components. So that is the main use of Redux.
Okay. So what is the middleware and which middleware you have used in your project?
I use Redux Thunk as a middleware in React. So Redux Thunk I used is because it allows us to perform, when we perform an action, when we perform any action, it is like dispatch action. So Thunks gives us easy access to the dispatch method. So based on the type, like to in the fetch API calls, like if we are making a fetch API calls, and then if we want to fetch the data, and I want to that data to upload it into the payload of that dispatch type, so that based on action it will check the type and fetching the data from the API, and based on that type the data will be stored in the payload, and then it moves into the reducer, and in reducer it checks the type. Based on that type, it will update that particular state through shallow copy, and then we can access that state in component to map state to props.
Okay. So in that case, if I want to delay the dispatch of action, how can I achieve with the thunk?
Dispatch action.
Yeah, I want to delay it, right?
Yes.
I don't want to perform it immediately. I want to perform some certain actions over there, and after getting something like in which I am interested or some response, then only I want to fire that action.
Okay. 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 If you want to perform any delete action,
Not delay, delay.
delay. Okay. Delay is like a No, like a reducer and actions perform in synchronous ways. I think I don't have idea about it.
Okay. Uh, no worries. 1 second.